to SeerNova Podcast, Season 2, Episode 23. Yeah.
It
says it on the top, Greg.
Yeah, I know. I wrote it too. I don't know. I just write. We have too many people to name, so we're going to just go around the room first. You guys are going to just say your names. So let's start with Aaron, and then I'll just work our way around.
Hi, I'm Aaron Wroblewski. I'm the writer, creator of several comic series, Enenra, post-apocalyptic, Amor Patris, which is supernatural horror, and my Blood and Fire, Ice and Bone samurai series, which is hoping to finish in August.
Cool. Okay. Let's go with okay, there we go. Dylan did that. All right.
My turn?
Mariano? That's how you
Yes.
say that, right? Yeah.
Hey there, how's it going? My name
That's
is Mariano Chapo. I'm a comic book artist from Argentina. I've been currently working for Dynamite for the last 4 years. Mostly done a bunch of Vampirella, Savage Tales, Wacky Races, and now we started our own first project called The End. So, and that's what we're here to talk about a little bit.
Don.
Hey everybody, I am Don Walker. I am the publisher, writer, penciler of almost all things Dork Empire Inc. Most recently, Dreadlock the Barbarian, which hit direct market last month from the Antarctic Press. And I'm thrilled to be here. And nice to meet everybody, and looking to have a good time.
Cool. AJ.
My name's AJ Cassetta. I'm an artist and a writer. I've been working in board games for the last couple of years. I've worked for comics. I've worked briefly in video games. I have been a writer for published short stories, and right now I'm also working with Mariano on The End, which is a Kickstarter anthology we have going on right now. So we're pretty psyched to talk about that. Yeah.
Cool. And Peter.
Hey. Yeah, hiya guys. I'm Peter Clinton. I'm based here in the UK. I'm a comic book artist and creator. So I've been, I'll draw for anyone. Anyone that pays me, I'll draw for. But most recently I've drawn for DMC Silverline. And I'm working on a series called Morbid Justice, which you can get through Amazon. The writer Rob Alvear. I'm currently on issue 8 of I think it's going to be 13 issues. And yeah, I'm working on the End anthology with AJ and Mariano and others.
Okay. Aaron, keep getting kicked out. Aaron, are you like backing out yourself, or are you? Just
I did not touch a damn thing. This internet sucks.
Oh, internet?
Yeah, hotel internet. It keeps tripping out.
I was gonna say, I thought it was the McDonald's Wi-Fi.
Probably would be better at this point.
Okay, cool. So, since you guys are all from all over the place, how have comics from different regions and like you have like different personal experiences, so we can go around the room and like discuss like how each one of you have different experiences making comics, if maybe you do have different experiences. So we'll start with Peter.
For me, yeah. In the UK, it's interesting because we get, obviously we're part of Europe, but we get all our comics are primarily American. So our comic book industry is dominated by American comic books. So I've grown up reading Marvel and DC, and that's the stuff that's influenced me. That's the stuff that's influenced my style. But breaking into comics from the UK, there used to be such a thing as Marvel UK, but that went out long before I got into comic books. So trying to break into comics from the UK was really difficult. It's got easier now with the advent of the internet, and where you can just work anywhere in the world and still submit your stuff. You don't have to journey into New York to go and see an editor. You can just send it out. So it's got easier. But I still think if you want to work in American comic books, it's better to be in America. I think just the access to the convention circuit makes a huge difference. We have conventions here, but you don't really get the same penetration and the same opportunities. Fortunately, the internet does help. And going to the Cuba school, went to the Cuba school, that's where I met AJ and Mariano. You are fortunate to meet the right people, and you can then have the access you need to send your stuff out, keep sending your stuff out. But otherwise, yeah, it could be quite tricky.
I heard that what's it called? Conventions in Europe and England are very expensive, like to attend, like to table. I don't remember who we were talking with, but it was like, we have tables as low as $75, $100 for a table.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the top end, so like if you went New York Comic Con or San Diego, it's going to cost you hundreds, right? It's going to cost you hundreds for a table.
Thousands.
And yeah, the lower end, I guess you are 75. Honestly, I've not paid more than £150 for a table, which probably equates to about $175 for a table. And there's some pretty big conventions for us. Those are our largest conventions. You, as in artist, you're not going to pay more than £200 for a table.
Okay.
Yeah, the conventions aren't big enough, and I guess Artist Alley isn't the main draw for them. Reed Pop, who own New York, own the big conventions here too, and their focus is more on TV and film than it is on comic books. So Artist Alley is, I guess, it's not the prime reason people are going to conventions here.
That's the same here too. Yeah. For the most part, Artist Alley's like, even at San Diego, if you look at the whole convention floor, Artist Alley's like over there.
Yeah,
it's like it's all the way on the end.
That's sad but true. Yeah, we do have a few comic book, just focused comic book conventions, but they're far and few. But yeah, they're not too expensive. I don't know how much you pay now to get in. I haven't paid to get into convention for a long time, but I know when I was living in America, it was a lot more expensive to table than it is here. But that said, we went as part of our third year at the Cuba school. We get to table at New York, and I made more in those few hours I was sitting at those tables than I'd have ever done before. People just buy original art, and it's a harder sell, I think, here to do that. But conventions like that, if you spend what, $500, I think you can probably make that back quite easily. Whereas if I spent $500 on a table here, that's a hard slog. That's a long few days.
That's cool. It's just interesting hearing the difference between different places with specifically the conventions, because conventions show like culturally like what's relevant in the area.
Yeah. There seems to be, I don't know about how you guys find it over there, but it seems to be a bit of a manga or anime focus at the moment.
That's taking over the world, because I think the main difference is that, to be honest, the storytelling is the most important part of a comic. Like there have been comics with terrible graphics that have gotten Netflix deals. Yeah. So you can make it if your story's good enough. And manga, just like and anime is a great proving ground of that. The reason why anime is so big is that their storytelling is sometimes fantastic. Like just incredible storytelling. Even with whatever weird world they might build in their universe, the character development, like even just one of the most well-known, like Dragon Ball Z, having a Goku character, just this good character, and you get to see a growth arc. You have the Vegeta villain to hero arc. You have the what's it called, the Gohan's like, weakling to needing to step up arc, rather like Goku like does it for fun. Gohan needs to do it, right? Like there are all these different heroes' journeys wrapped up into one story, and so any person who might feel like one of these characters can kind of embed themselves in the story, and that's kind of the cool. That's why there's people who are huge Goku fans, huge Vegeta. There's people that are huge Piccolo fans, like the really good dad character, the really good stepdad, it's super powerful the way that manga has shaped storytelling. And I think that if indie comics kind of sees that and starts telling stories in that fashion, that's a huge deal, because that's something I've talked about on another one of our episodes. A lot of indie creators try to break too many rules when it comes to creating art. And it's like, if you're going to break all these rules, it's going to be harder for a reader to connect with. You got to follow at least the majority of rules and then just break a couple.
Yeah, you got to know the rules first before you can start breaking them.
And that's the other big thing is you have to learn the rules so you know how and when to break them, and that you chose to break them, rather than just, I don't even know what the rules are. Like, I don't know what a plot arc is, so that's kind of the idea. It's definitely something that a lot of independent creators are like, oh, I can draw or I can write a little bit, and they kind of just get into it. It's why a lot of indie creators don't hire editors. They're like, I don't need an editor. And it's like, no, you probably do.
Don't want someone telling me I've done it wrong or it doesn't work.
Yeah, if anything, I feel like the people who think they don't need an editor are the ones who most need an editor. Yeah, it's like the ones who think they do need an editor probably are a lot further ahead. But cool, AJ, share a little bit about your world in comics.
Sure. So I haven't worked extensively in comics. I went to the Kubert School with Peter and Mariano, and I've worked on like comic book related projects, but our anthology now is the first time I've really delved into doing it, on a more professional basis or level. Mostly for me, like the last few years has been a lot of board game work, a lot of sculpture, a lot of painting, things like that. And the way I've always been into comics. Like I've always read comics. I've always had comics in my life since I was a little kid. And when I went to the Kubert School, I really didn't know if like I wanted to do comics professionally. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I just knew I wanted to draw, and then I wanted to do something with art. And the further into my career I went, the further it took me away from comic books. But now coming back into the fold it feels like this is the kind of thing that I really want to do. But we were on a podcast not too long ago, and they were talking about like, what's your most influential books that you've read in comics, and I always am reading like the Civil War run that Steve McNiven did, and because I just love everything about it. But it's, for me, like with comics, it's just being able to kind of like being able to tell the story and just direct the flow, the action, everything about what you're doing visually is very important to me. And it's just really what I like to do. But yeah, it's pretty much it.
Dylan's talking, but
oh yeah, sorry, I hit mute. I was getting a phone call, so I was muting it so you didn't hear the ringing. But when it comes to, did you say you were in game development, game creation? What was the involvement in games?
So I worked for Forge Gaming for the last like 2 years, which is it's a board game accessories company. So I was doing tons of sculpting dice towers, doing paintings for dice mats, working for like actual TTRPGs, game books, things like that. And really just, all the stuff that goes into making board games, I've been involved in some facet of it or other. And Yeah, and even before that, even before I worked for them, I was doing some board game stuff, sculpting miniatures, sculpting play characters, whatever it is. And yeah, I loved it. Like I loved being able to, sculpt dragons and castles, and it was a fun time.
That's pretty cool. Was that for? Did you do a lot of that for like Dungeons and Dragons, or like was it like what something else?
So it was a third party. It was a third party company. So we did accessible of our own. We did themes from time to time, but mostly it was you go to our site, you find like, oh, here's these cool dice, here's these cool dice towers. Not a lot of actual licensed material. We did a we had the license for a Call of Cthulhu RPG that was ours. That was all our project. And I was responsible, like top to bottom, from designing the cover, doing the graphic design on the interior, doing all the painting for like the NPCs and whatever. And that was really fun. So it was stuff like that. I never worked directly for D&D or Warhammer or anything, but we did tons of work with Forge. Like, it kept me in a full-time job for 2 years, and it was cool. It was a lot of measuring with the dice. It was a lot of geometry that I had to learn that I wasn't good with before, but I had to learn it all. So really, yeah, it was cool. But for comics, I worked with Corvus Comics for a while, did drawing and illustration for them, but it's the board game stuff was a lot of fun because sculpting was my main job for the last couple of years. Like, illustrating, yes, but mostly sculpting, like ZBrush, digital sculpting, things like that.
Yeah, cool. Did you say Forged Gaming or Forge? With a D at the end or no D? With the D?
With a D at the end. Yep.
Yeah, because I noticed two. There's two that came up, and I'm like, oh,
that's weird. Someone's stealing our thunder. No, yeah, really cool stuff. Really cool time.
That's pretty cool. Awesome. Let's get. Let me move you up there. Up, let go. There we go, and then we'll do this. Don, your turn. It's over in your part of the world.
Yeah. So I've been in the comics for quite a while, off and on. My intro to comics, my first published work out at 16. I started solely working on sequential art at 13 with my first copy of How to Draw Comics the Marvel Way. Love that book. Still love it. Still holds up as an artist anyway. And so at 16, I did a bunch of stuff for an anthology by a publishing company called Arena Press, which was funny. It was a 16-year-old guy from Albuquerque, New Mexico, put an ad in, I think it was called Comics Interview at the time, newspaper, comic mag, kind of the Wizard before Wizard. It was a comic newspaper you could get subscriptions to. I asked for an ad. I did like 6 different stories for them, mostly my own creator-owned stuff. That was fun. I did some stuff for AC Comics around 17 and never saw print. But I dabbled and worked on my craft from the late 80s into the late 90s, where I got a miniseries from the Antarctic Press called Creature that I wrote and created, wrote, penciled. They put that out. And then after the 90s crash, I left comics and went into film, to film school, and that was a blast. But during my film school years of like 1999 to 2001, I met my now wife. I've been married for over 20 years. Kind of left comics behind, did some film stuff, made a feature on my own dime. But I love comics. I've been a comic nerd since the late 70s. And so in the 2013-ish era, I started making comics again. Got into self-publishing in 2015. Been off and on ever since with different projects. I still love film, but comics are easier to make. They're cheaper to make. Less barriers to make them. So that's what I'm doing now.
Cool. Is part of what you're trying to do with comics is use that to like maybe develop films? Is that kind of the idea? Like maybe ideas that could be presented for film companies, or is it mostly just for the enjoyment of comics?
I'm a firm believer you make comics for comics' sake first. So all my books are books I would want to read. If someone likes them enough to adapt them, great. I have interest in Dreadlock the Barbarian, which is my newest book for an animated series. But I've only done one book, so I'm not going to try and pitch an animated series of one issue. I have a mini series planned that once that's done, that would be more of a visual Bible for a cartoon, possibly. But yeah, I'm very much do comics. There are too many people making comics from adapted screenplays, and it shows because they're usually terrible comics a lot of times. And so comics first, film, TV later.
Dude, it's funny. I feel like that. I feel like that goes right into what I was saying earlier too about like you need to just tell a good story. Like manga, although it very quickly gets moved over into anime, it's like it's not necessarily just made to be an anime. They're made to just be good stories, and because they're good stories, they can adapt to any medium. I think that's probably
exactly.
Yeah. Nice, Mariano.
All right. So I'm from Argentina. I was working there as a art director for a advertising agency, and I was not doing very well, to be honest. I got fired from that job. I didn't know exactly what to do, so I was at the time was taking some semi-professional comic book classes with some local artists, and kind of like I found, okay, this is it, this is the way. But obviously Argentina is not a great or a big hub for like comics at all. Like everything that we get, it's basically from the American publishing. So obviously works are like very limited there as well. So I figured out that if I wanted to make it into comics, I would have to come where the source is, which is the US. So kind of sold a bunch of stuff and came to the Cure School for 3 years. Like I did all three. And I was lucky enough that right at the end of the third year, you have like a bunch of like meetings with editors there. So I was able to land my first professional job there for Dynamite as a penciler and inker. That was 2021, I think. Since then I've been doing some. Right when I started, I wanted to get my foot into the comic book industry, so I did some lettering, like design. I did like public, not editorial, but some like behind the scenes, like setting up files and everything for like Cinescope. That was like kind of the first credits, professional credits that I have are for like just what's the name, lettering assistant for Dynamite. You gotta get your food somewhere, like somehow. So like since then I've been mostly working for Dynamite. Now this is my fourth year working with them. This year I got my first series. It's a 5-book deal. I cannot say what it is yet, but hopefully I'll be able to reveal something. But luckily they keep me busy. But as Peter said, like whoever pays me to do a job, I'll do it. I think I found that comic books are very mercenary job. You give me money, I'll draw stuff for you, basically. So.
This is a safe place, though. It's okay to share secrets here. It is funny. We've had a couple people like share like what they're working on here, before they really released anywhere, which has been fun. But I totally get it. I got a question actually. So something random that I noticed when I was so I visited Brazil this past summer, and I noticed that they had comic books in like little bodegas, like just these little places where you normally get a coffee or some pot of caju, something like that. Like not like they were like in an everyday place right next to the magazines, and that's not something that happens in the United States much anymore. Like there's probably some areas that have that, but for the most part, if I go to a 7-Eleven or some gas station, they're not going to have comic books as one of the things that you can purchase anymore. So I'm curious in Argentina if you see it similarly, where there's comic books that are kind of along with magazines that are out there, or is it like solely comic book shops that you see them at?
So comic book shops became a thing probably in the last 10 years, I will say. Not solely, but it's more popular now, but Argentina, especially Buenos Aires, the capital, they have like a huge culture of like just buying like magazine in like little magazine kiosks on the street. Another thing that definitely contributed to that is that since we are a Spanish speaking country, most of the comics that we get there are translated, so they usually are translated through another company, and that's the company that also manages the distribution. So usually those historically were like distributed to those little kiosks, In fact, it was like actually when I was like thinking of getting here, I was like, okay, let me consume a lot of comics and the things that I need to know before going, and it was very hard for me to get comics in English actually. So every time that I have someone traveling to the US or something, I give it a bunch of money and bring me some comics.
That's funny. That's very cool though, because like I said, it was interesting seeing them. That makes more sense though why they're in those kiosks. It's just like the people who happen to be translating them are translating them, along with all these other materials, and then delivering them to these organizations. That's actually pretty interesting.
Yeah, it's actually again it was for me very hard even to get just just normal books in English. It was always kind of like a hustle to get. Obviously, it's not a very well-connected country, and we have something similar to Amazon now, but it was very hard. Now I'm guessing it could be a little bit easier, but not the same as here in the States.
It's probably very dependent on the city you're in too. In Brazil, yeah. I was in South Brazil, and I never ran into a single person who spoke English, not one time.
Oh no!
It was crazy. That was definitely interesting.
For example, Argentina is a very centralized country. Here in the US, that you have every state has a major city or big-ish city. Argentina has Buenos Aires. It's the capital, and everything else is kind of
It's not Buenos Aires.
Yeah. So I'm from a very small state province in Argentina, which is literally bordering Brazil and Paraguay, so we get this amount of comics. Growing up, but that did not exist.
That's super interesting. Very cool. Do we go through everybody? Yeah, we did. Oh, because Aaron disappeared, right?
So Aaron's not coming back because of the internet issue, but I'm still gonna include his stuff in the show notes or whatever. And then he's on another episode anyway in August, so I was like, maybe it'll work then.
Very cool.
Yeah.
What's another question, Greg? Another question.
So AJ, you do mostly sculpting. How does that help with comic page flow? If that does at all.
In terms of page flow, it doesn't help, but I would say that in terms of just drawing in general, like anatomy, for example, I wouldn't be as good as I am at drawing anatomy if I wasn't a sculptor. And I mean that just on a personal level. I don't know about anybody else. There's amazing artists, illustrators who probably have never picked up clay or done any sculpting in their lives. But for me personally, it's when I was doing, especially figures, human figures, sculpting human figures, professionally or anything like that, you got to learn how things work in 3 dimensions. So, for example, the inside of the leg. Like, I don't know why I could never visualize that in a drawing space until I started sculpting it. And then I learned how the muscles worked. I learned how everything worked on 3D. And now thinking about it, drawing it is just, it's there, right? So comics, in terms of like, I guess the way it helps me with comic pages is that now, after doing so much sculpting, that these things come up so fast in terms of just being able to put it down on a page, that it helps to draw pages faster. Because I'm not having to reference so much anatomy. I'm not having to reference so much of anything because it's all just kind of up here. But I definitely wouldn't be as good of an illustrator as I am if I wasn't a sculptor, and vice versa. I would not be nearly as good of a sculptor if I didn't learn all of those fundamentals of drawing at the Kubert School.
I think there's an element, isn't it? If you're drawing in 2D or on a comic page, you can sort of fudge things. You can, okay, it works fine in 2-dimensionals, or I can hide something around there. If you're making a model, there's no way you can hide anything, because someone just has to turn the model around, and if it doesn't look right from the front, it won't look right from the back, so you can't hide it anywhere.
Exactly.
So you have to, if you can work it in 3 dimensions, I think you'll be able to do it much better on a 2-dimensional page, where it doesn't quite work the other way.
Oh no, yeah, for sure. And it's also that, like anatomy, not just for people, but for like creatures. Like I just sculpted a lot of dragons over the last couple of years, and I realized I don't know what a dragon looks like. I don't know. I realized like I can't draw a dragon. I can't sculpt a dragon till I was like, okay, it's just a big dog with a long neck. And now if I start drawing it, now that's how I'm thinking about it. But yeah, no, I kept messing up arms and legs with the sculpture. I'm like, I can't just like have hair flowing over the hand so you don't see the hand. Because I'm sculpting it, so like everyone's gonna see.
I'll just crop this panel so you don't see that bit.
Exactly.
Can't get away with it.
Hide them behind a tree. Can't do that. But yeah, no, it's so but it's definitely helped.
I can feel the judgment too when you were like, some people may never have picked up clay, just like judging all those artists.
No, I'm saying it because like they just get it in 2D. Like I couldn't, right? They draw it in 2D. They just get it. They're really good with it. They remember it. I don't. I kind of needed the 3D space to make me as good as some people.
I dabbled in clay also in college, and it's very unforgiving. So if you don't do it right, it's obvious from jump you didn't do it right. I tried getting some work at a 3D what do you call it, creature effects studio. So I did some tests modeling, and it was hard. It was not easy.
Yeah, these days it's all on the computer. ZBrush, Blender, whatever. You can control Z, so it's a lot more forgiving.
Yeah, I was doing Blender a couple of years ago, so then I stopped. But every single time I went back into Blender, I did that donut tutorial.
I've done the same tutorial way more than once.
Yep. And then Dylan's like, "Wow, that looks so good. I want to eat it." And I was like, "Yeah, I know, right? I'm just amazing." Yeah, I mostly made food on there, and I wasn't even hungry. I'm like, that's really easy to make. Like, I made a Twinkie.
A hot dog?
I made a hot dog, animation. It took me 2 to 3 hours to make that. It was 15 seconds.
Like 2 to 3 weeks.
Yeah. I get why people charge so much for, animations and stuff. I was like, that took 2 hours, and that was 15 seconds.
Yeah.
So, Peter, you don't do clay or
God, no.
But how do you go about your approach to sequential art?
How do I go about my approach? I try to make every single page pop and be as cool as possible. So hopefully there is at least one thing on each page or each script where I can really make into something, or that panel into something. So it's not just talking heads or something like that. But yeah, so I would my process is I script, pick one panel that will be the main focus of that page, and then build around that, I guess. So at least every page pops and it's got something on it that looks cool. Comics should look cool, I think. But yeah, it purely just trying to make it look cool while serving the story at the same time. First and foremost, story, then make it look cool.
Yeah,
I think that's probably the if I think about it, that's probably where I go about it doing it. It's come second nature now, so I get in the routine of perhaps work 5 pages at a time, so I know that sort of little act, what's happening, and then
cool.
Make it look cool. That's probably what I want. Make it look cool. Yeah.
I feel like that's like that should be your tagline.
Yeah, I think that's what I aim to. I want people to look at my stuff and go, "Wow, that looks great. That looks like something I want to read." And hopefully it does that. I hope. I don't know.
Yeah, the whole talking heads thing is a thing that I'm pretty sure every creator has struggles with when they first start. I did. So I don't draw. I could draw a cube, but writing, I would write like paragraphs, and then Dylan's like, that can't fit on the page, and I'm like, yeah. So then we would have to like shrink it down a lot. And our first comic, ink, we had to like basically not throw out the script, but like my script went to the artist. Atam drew it, and it was only like 8-9 pages. And then Dylan's like, all of this won't fit on this, so we have to fix that. And I was like, okay. So he like, that's why an editor is important. And then he like broke it down. And
although editors should do it beforehand, we messed up. We had a lucky incident where people actually very much liked this comic and that storytelling format stuck throughout. But I got the panels and I'm like, wait, did you already pay him to do these? He's like, yeah. I'm like, I haven't even looked at your script yet, and I can tell that this is not going to fit here. And then I look at it, and I'm like, yeah, none of this stuff will fit here. So we basically had to rewrite the story, but with the art we were already given, since we already paid for it. This wasn't like we didn't have like tons of money to like start throwing at this stuff. So I'm like, all right, so if we can't talk, what if it's like an inner dialogue? And that was kind of how the whole Ink series got a different look and feel to it. But yeah, it's definitely, I don't recommend that, but it was just a lucky instance.
Don't get me wrong, when I'm up against a deadline, I'm really thankful sometimes for just a talking head page because I can bang that out real quick. It's like, yeah, that's done. That's a nice quick one. That's a page done in half a day. But
no background, no nothing. Just
they're talking. Great, perfect.
Yeah, I get that.
4 panels back and forth. Great, done. Yeah.
So, Don, you did filmmaking. Do you do like any filmmaking still, or?
I try. As far as my comics go, I think a very cinematic approach. My film school and my film work outside of film school very much informed how I write and how I see visual storytelling. Comics and film, there are a lot of things that correlate together and work real well. Other things that don't, but I think I've been able to extrapolate what works, what doesn't. I draw with a lot of energy. I focus a lot of times on action-oriented stories. That's what I like to read. That's what I like to watch on film. When I write, I often will, like any of my books I've written, I will put the reader in the middle of some action from page 1. And you have to ride along with the rest of the book to figure out what's going on. That's how I like to do it. But I have a lot of energy in my work. I move my camera around. So each page, each shot, I'm a cinematographer. I go in there, okay, working at my lighting, where's my camera angles, what angle is best to make this character feel this way or that way, or telling the story is always paramount. But like the other gentleman said, it's got to look cool also. It's got to look cool. Even my talking headshots or pages, I have to make them cool. Because if I'm bored, you're going to be bored. So I have to make it look cool for me. I'll do weird stuff like I'll write 2-page spreads in every book I do just to entertain myself because they're fun.
Yeah.
And they're challenging to tell a story in a 2-page spread that works. It doesn't just look like you're taking up real estate. You can't write anything. I'll have 2-page spreads that will encompass, multiple panels, but again, looks cool, looks interesting. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the artist J.H. Williams III.
Yeah.
He was co-creator of Batwoman.
Yeah.
He did a real long run on some Alan Moore stuff. Promethea, I think it's called.
Yeah, his page designs are amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, I've known that guy forever. And he was a big influence on me as a young 20-something-ish artist. And we're still friends to this day. He's amazing. His layouts boggle my mind. So when I'm having problems laying something out, I just pick up some old school, Batwoman or, any of his older work, and it energizes me and gets me all pumped up to do stuff. So, but yeah, film definitely helped me become a better writer. I've written a bunch of screenplays. I produced one feature screenplay that I produced, directed, and wrote. I've done shorts. My original feature film, we're kind of going back to. I shot that in 2010. We're going back and trying to finish it. It's technically done, but it's been a while, so I've thought of some new ways to kind of like modernize it so I can actually put it out. I actually lost 3 actors past since I finished that film, and for them, I want people to see it eventually. They did amazing jobs, and we lost one to COVID. We lost 2 others to other medical problems that I'm not gonna get into, but I love those people, and I want to see that film get out there and seen. So I have some friends working on trying to get that tweaked and put out either this year or next year.
Cool. That's cool. And Dylan's talking again.
Damn it, I'm talking to myself. I keep muting it because I keep making noises. My chair squeaks and stuff when I move. But no, I was gonna say that's sorry to hear, but cool that you're gonna be pushing forward with those film. But also what you described earlier with the comics about using like the different directions. Greg knows in a couple of our scripts, I went through and I'm like, all right, like worm's eye view under the right foot of this character, bird's eye view over this. Yeah, like after it was so funny. I think you were the one that brought up this book earlier. Or somebody brought this book up earlier.
Oh yeah.
And it's like once I learned even like a couple of those little keywords, I was like, I'm gonna put that everywhere. I want to make sure the artist knows what we're talking about. And eventually, it got to the point where he's like, or like depending on what comic we were working on, we'd get somebody who's like, I think I have a better idea for this one. It's like, cool. Like we're just telling you what we envisioned, but if you've got a good idea. And so eventually what we did was only when we were like certain, like this is how we want this one scene to play out, everything else we would leave it a little more vague and let the artist kind of, do what an artist does. And that seems to be the best combination when working with an artist is to have that, here's how we want it. Here's a cool scene, figure out how to make it work and, just move on from there. And it's been working out. Like our comics have progressively gotten artistically much better because of
collaborative. It's collaborative. It's a collaborative medium, and you have good talent. Use them for what they can do. Yeah, like all my writer friends, I tell them all the time because I get asked to draw things a lot from my writer friends locally, and I'm like a lot of them are filmmakers who want to make comics. So I'm like, hey, they're different. Comics are not films. You can say you can write a page, and we all know one page of a script is 1 minute of footage. Well, that one page in a script could be 4 pages in a comic book. You have to learn to take those shots, those segments of the movement, the motion, take that snapshot and pull it off and write that. So the artist knows and also let your artist do their job, right? Yeah. I think Mark Waid said once, he is the architect, but the artist is the contractor.
Yeah, like they know what's going to work and what's not going to work, no matter how much that architect really wants that thing to look just like that. It's like sometimes it doesn't get to look like that unless you got some new material.
Exactly.
But I no, that's very cool though. I definitely that's a good metaphor for it. Is the architect and the contractor.
Cool. So we what is your favorite indie comic of all time? So we'll start with Don and then go around.
Oh, favorite indie comic of all time? Gee.
It could be Ink. It's okay.
Right now, oh man, I couldn't even tell you. Old school, I can't even remember anything pre-90s at this point for indies. I would say currently, Death or Glory, image comic by, I think Rick Remender writes that, and Bango pencils that. Amazing book. That Death or Glory is literally a movie or TV series on paper. It's that good. You can read it and see it as a streaming, high-end streaming series. It's that good of a story written in art. It's amazing. So Death and Glory right now, Saga.
Mm.
You know, what can you say more about? It's Saga. It's awesome. Those two are my go-tos right now.
Cool. Peter or AJ? Yeah, AJ.
Sorry. I'll be honest with you. I'm not really up on indie comics all that much. I mean, yeah, when it comes to like image books, I mean, I've read the classic image books, but in terms like Kickstarter ones, really indie stuff, like like crowdfunding kind of stuff, like we have that. I'm honestly not up on any but ours. But yeah, I'm really not up enough on them to know.
That's fine.
So Peter's probably much better person.
I did Saga's one I always look forward to. Bone, I love Bone because Bone's style is so different to what I was used to reading, growing up with Marvel and DC, and then finding this Bone, and it was funny, and the story was so well written, and the art was charming, and so I love Bone, Saga, Saga more recently. What was I read? Why the Last Man. I thought Why the Last Man. I sat down and read that in a day or two, I think, when I finally got hold of it. I thought that was brilliantly written. I guess you'd call it an indie comic, just about. Indie, they're more and more mainstream now.
Yeah.
But, I tend to follow the writer or follow the artist, and if you determine it as an indie book, then I'd probably read it. But I guess they're probably more mainstream than that now. But yeah, Bone, definitely. I remember Bone when I was younger. I think that was brilliant. I love that.
That's cool.
But yeah, I think I started off reading Marvel and DC religiously, and that's what I read as a kid, and I grew up, and eventually you start discovering Image and the stuff they're putting out, and I say you follow the artists and you follow the writers, and just get exposed to the different stuff like that. But yeah.
Cool. Mariano.
Same here with indie comics. To be honest, I'm like more of a what's that? Mainstream, I guess. But mostly like what Peter said. Like I think that like I pick up comics depending on the artist. If I know like an artist, like okay, I need to get everything that he did, and like I need to check it out. That happened to me first with I think Ivan Reis. I was always like super mainstream, but I was like, oh my god, this guy's in completely other level than anyone else. Then started moving to especially when I got here, Lee Weeks. That to me is like the bar is so high. So after that, I don't know. I think that the latest, obviously not indie again, sorry, but that I got that blew my mind was I think I mentioned this in another podcast the other day, the Human Target by Greg Smallwood.
Yeah.
That's probably the best book I ever picked. Like
Yeah.
definitely in the last 10 years. I don't know. It's insane. Just for like art wise storytelling, like everything. Like it's just gorgeous.
Okay. Before we wrap up, we're gonna go around the room and do everybody likes creator advice because there's always new people coming into this. So we could start with Don, and then the other room with
So,
what advice do you
creator
have for
advice.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I guess if you're coming in from not making comics at all, it would be seek out people like us who are doing it. If you see our work, you like our work, talk to us. I am one of 4 co-founders of a group called the Sketchy Bug Group. We are a nationwide creator collective, but the majority of us are in California, where I live. And we've been around for like 12 years now. And our whole goal is to find new talent who want to make books, help them create their comics, right? So you can come to our group either online or on Facebook. We meet every week if you're in California area, Southern California. We meet at the Comic Bug Comic Shop in Manhattan Beach, California, every Wednesday from like 4 p.m. to like 9 o'clock at night. We hang out, we talk about our comics, we write or draw there at the shop. Most of our regular members started not having made a comic ever and have all made comics within the first year they've been part of our group. So our goal is to help you learn to write, help you find artists if you're a writer, help you find writers if you're an artist you can't write, help you with your sequential art, help you with your writing, your penciling, inking, coloring. We have people a part of the group who can do it all and will help you navigate those mistakes we all made as creators pre-internet, right? I started drawing. I didn't have the internet. I didn't have digital tools. I'm still traditional pencils and paper, but we have guys and young ladies in our group that are proficient with all the softwares and the stuff. So find people who are doing it and do it well. Talk to them. This is a community that's probably more than any community I've ever been part of that is the most welcoming to new people and will help new people. I personally help people all the time, and I enjoy that almost as much as making the books. It's helping other people do it too and do it well. So, yeah.
Mariano.
Okay, in terms of advice, I will say that if you are really interested in doing this, you have to know that this is a full-time job. If you're like, the reality of it is that you're going to be like drawing a lot, and you're going to be drawing like a lot of stuff that you might not be super interested in, but that's part of the job. Like, I thought I was going to be like drawing like a lot of like buff dudes in spandex and capes, and I end up drawing more like conversations in a with coffee than anything else. So yeah, I think that like a lot of people get into this, they think, oh my god, I love drawing a little bit, and but like the reality is like it's a lot of work. You have to be like ready to spend a lot of work of hours in front of your computer if you're doing digital or traditional, depending on yours. Like, get a good chair for sure. Just like, I think that like as artists, we're always like very hard on ourselves. In like, you want to be like kind of perfect. You're always like looking for perfection, and that will never get to that. So don't be afraid of the process. Kind of sucks, but you gotta keep at it.
Okay. Peter.
Start with anthologies. If you want to work in comics, start with anthologies. They are great, like taster to figure out. And if you're a writer, they're great because you've got to deliver a story in 6 to 8 pages or less. And if you're an artist, you've only got to draw 6 to 8 pages. You are not committed to drawing 24 or more pages or 6 issues of 24 pages. So it really gives you focus and a sort of taste. The first thing I ever did was a 6-page anthology, and it's a great way of just getting your stuff out there quickly, and getting to work with lots of good people, writers and editors and publishers. You'll meet a lot of people doing that, and you get to work with them again and again. So I would encourage you, if you want to get into comics, go start trying to find some anthologies to do.
And AJ.
I'd say it's really important to step out of your comfort zone with what you're doing. It kind of goes hand in hand with what Mariano was saying about stuff you may not exactly like to draw. My first professional work was for Telegraphics, which was a company that did a magazine called PS Magazine, and it basically it was for the Army, and it was drawing maintenance manuals for guns, tanks, trucks, whatever. So the job was you go in and you draw tech all day long, guns, planes, tires, anything like that. And I was a first year at the Kubert School, and we had to like try out for this for the summer job. And it was like, draw this Humvee, draw this rifle, draw this. And I never drew any of those things. So I was up for like 2 days straight just redoing this page. And I went in and I got the job. But, the whole time I was like, I don't like drawing tech. I don't like drawing guns. I don't like drawing trucks. But stepping out of my comfort zone and drawing something completely new and different, it really paid off. So just if you feel like there's something you don't want to draw it and draw it again and again and again, and editors and people will notice.
Okay. Well, where can people find you? We'll start with AJ, since he's first right there.
Yeah, so my that's my dog in the background. So my socials are really, I just use Instagram. It's art_of_AJ Cassetta. I also, ajcassetta.com is my website. But right now, Mariano, Peter, and I are working on an anthology together, and that's where you can find, I think for most of us, the most up-to-date work that we have. So the Kickstarter is up right now. It's called The End. And it's a sci-fi anthology about the end of the world. So, you find all of our most recent stuff in there. But yeah.
Cool. Mariano.
Okay, so yeah, I mostly use Instagram as well. Thing is, like, I try to post as much as I can, but I'm really bad at it. But my handle is Mariano B. Chapo. Again, I try to post most of the stuff that I've been working on, the things that I can show. And again, I'm working with Peter and AJ and a bunch of like superstars actually on our anthology called The End. So check it out. We're on our last 5 days of our campaign right now. It's been our first editorial work with AJ, and it's been like a wild ride, to be honest. It's been crazy.
Peter.
Yes, nice and easy for me. So Instagram, Facebook, Twitter is Peter Clinton Art, ART. It's all the same. You can find me there. I post primarily on Instagram. I'm on Blue Sky as well, but I've got no idea what my handle is on that. It's just different. I don't know what it is. You'll find me if you need to find me. You'll find me. But yeah, Peter Clinton Art, and check out Kickstarter for the End anthology. Yeah.
Okay. And Don.
Oh, okay. I'm Don Walker on Facebook. Look for my mug as my avatar. Instagram for most of the comic stuff. It's Don_Space Knight. Rom shout out. What's up? I am out and about promoting the Dreadlock version by Antarctic Press that came out last month. I'm currently spearheading an anthology as well. It's called First Anthology. It is the anthology of first appearances. We'll have 18 stories, all averaging 10 plus pages, brand new characters never before seen in print. So that should hit Kickstarter probably September. So that's what I'm working on. I have a story inside the anthology as well. So, yep, you'll see art from that on Instagram eventually here pretty soon. So Instagram's the best place.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thanks for everybody coming on, and yeah.
Thanks so much.
Thanks for having me, man. I appreciate you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for having us.
Definitely.
Catch you soon.